So following reports that close to 30,000 pupils in the Western Cape will not be placed at schools in the province, the UCT Online High School has reopened its admission process, availing about 500 places. How effective or efficient are online schools in providing relief, though, to South Africa's overburdened schooling system? Well, school principal and director Yandiswa believes that the online solution can address those needs at scale. Xhakaza joins us now via our video link for more on their offering, and it's great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for making time for Newzroom Afrika. Let me begin by just gauging, where you are on the general issues around online learning in a country like ours. For one, what kind of efforts are being put in place to ensure that this process is as inclusive as it can be, given even in some instance the legacy of UCT as a previously whites-only institution?
Thanks for having me, Ayanda. So the limitations in South Africa are many for this kind of offering. And those limitations were not reason for us not to do anything at all, right? So we're cognizant, we're partnering with the right institutions and the right people and the right NGOs to make sure that we make the offering as accessible as possible. It's a start. And over time, we are hoping that we will break down those barriers. Things like internet access are a real barrier in our South African context. And we understand that even things like a device, if you're studying online, you need a laptop. So there's many limitations, but those, like I said, are not enough for us not to do anything about it. And partnerships are going to be critical. Things like zero rating the website to make it more accessible, are some of the options we are looking into. We recently had a partnership with the Human Rights Commission in the rural area of the Valley of 1,000 Hills in KZN, where we are making our offering accessible to that community through a local NGO. So to answer your question, we are very well aware of the challenges and of the barriers, and we're working quite intentionally to break those barriers down, because the whole point of UCT Online High School is to make high quality education accessible to a wide pool of children, primarily in South Africa and Southern Africa, but we have seen children from abroad signing up and joining the school as well. Yeah,
on that note, I understand that there should be a great interest in trying to enroll for the school. Do you have some of those facts and figures at your disposal? And perhaps you could also break down for us the kind of people that are applying to this school.
Sure. So we do, we received just over 8,000 applications, and we will be enrolling a total of 5,000 in year one. And of course, we're an online high school, so we have leg room to go beyond those numbers. We're only curbing it at 5,000 for purposes of launching in year one. And in subsequent years, that number will obviously change quite drastically. And our kids are coming from across South Africa, different provinces, but also a lot are coming from Southern Africa. And we have a few, in other countries as well, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. It's an amazing group it's a very diverse group of children, which is great, because then our kids will get to make those friendships and networks from across the globe effectively.
Speaking of friendships and networks, I remember from my high school years, which weren't too long ago, that, it's a great time to actually also create the kind of relationships that last you beyond high school itself. But a lot of that actually comes, dare I say, from in-person interaction. Speak to us about, I guess, how you're taking that into consideration, given, again, the limitations that come with having an online school.
Absolutely. So, Ayanda, I agree with you there. Personal connection and interaction can never be replaced by online anything, right? So we are humans, and we thrive on connectivity and connection and interaction. And we're quite intentional about that. And just because the actual academic learning happens online, we work very closely with our parents to really foster those meetups, those regular, because we know who's who stays where and how many kids are in that proximity or that area. And we are able to then foster those connection points and encourage parents to make sure that the kids can get to connect as well beyond just studying from home. So that's one of the things, but also we really encourage our kids to participate in extracurricular activities, to stay physically fit. So whilst as an online high school, we will not, obviously our kids are not going to be interacting with other children every day if they are studying from home, but we've built a system in which that can still happen. Online and in person. We have virtual clubs, for example, where they can get to meet up and hang out virtually for non-academic reasons, but also the in-person aspect of it has been seriously taken into consideration.
Yeah. Let's speak a bit more about this intervention of trying to assist with the, call it, the misplacement of pupils for the upcoming academic year. I mean, the Western Cape Education Department putting that figure at nearly 30,000 odd. That's the number of pupils who haven't been placed. You're coming in to offer 500 placement. What are the implications for those on the waiting lists? Do they also have to reapply for these 500?
No, so it's on a first-come, first-served basis. And it's devastating, I think, for parents, for many parents, when your child is just in limbo. You don't know where they're going to be going the following year. And really, that's where that came from, that surely, as a school, we're also really quite big on turning these physical limitations into digital opportunities. And here is an opportunity for us to step in and assist. And even 500 really feels like a drop in the ocean when you think of how many children. But we are really hoping that we will be alleviating some of that distress for parents and for the Department of Education as well. And in future, I suppose, would be able to help in a more meaningful way in terms of how many more children we will be able to allow. But for this current year, we're opening up those 500 spaces, and it will be on a first-come, first-served because we can't actually monitor who's where and how. But we will then have to close once that number is reached. So whichever parents apply first are the parents that we're going to take in.
All right, Yandiswa Xhakaza, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Really do appreciate your time. Yandiswa is the school principal and the director of the UCT Online High School. Once again, thanks very much indeed.